All right. Hello, good evening, good morning, and good afternoon to everybody in the audience. Thank you very much for joining us today for day 3 of our final session that we've been doing this week in terms of New Brunswick and our key industries and sectors that we work within. Today we've got a great host and panels of speakers that will speak to the digital health ecosystem here. I know it's been of a key area of interest in a lot of regions that we've been talking with, especially as healthcare is now more prevalent than ever been really in the past with the rise of the global situation we're currently in. So just to kick things off, my name's Jesse. I will be the host moderator today. And with me, I have Dale Vandenborre, one of my colleagues, who's the digital health lead in terms of those initiatives. And we also have representatives from Routinify, from Acreon, as well as from Cognitive Spark on with us today. So without further ado, I will hand the microphone and the stage off to my colleague, Dale. Dale, take it away.
Well, thank you so much, Jesse, and thank you everyone for joining us for digital health in New Brunswick discussion today. Thank you to my fellow panelists who I work closely with for taking the time to share their stories. And I'm just going to walk through what's happening here in New Brunswick. I'll take a little bit of time to talk about New Brunswick just in case. I know we have an international audience here today. Just in case you're not aware of New Brunswick, we'll spend a little bit of time on that, but we'll spend most of our time on one of our focus areas here in the province, digital health, and talk about the ecosystem, the entities that make up our ecosystem, and some of the projects that we have going on, so you can get a sense of some of the activity in the region as well. So just going to step through these slides and show New Brunswick first. We are on the east coast of Canada, on the Atlantic Ocean. And from a time zone perspective, actually that gives us an advantage really worth considering if you're looking to do work in North America. We wake up first before the rest of the country and before the rest of the United States. And that gives us an advantage to get the day started early, and it serves us well in terms of servicing North American marketplace. But then also a link, because we share half of our day with Europe as well. So the companies in North America that work with Europe, we share a day between them. So it's one of the reasons why New Brunswick is a great place for that connection between Europe and North America. And we're a relatively small province. We're about 780,000 people in New Brunswick. But if you look at our catchment area in New Brunswick, just within 1,000 kilometers from New Brunswick, we have several cities that are a drive or a short flight away. And we have about 55 million people in our catchment area. And that's one advantage, or a couple of advantages, but just to dive a little bit further, it really is our agility in the province. We recognize that we're not going to compete with Montreal, Toronto, or Vancouver. We just don't have the numbers, and we won't have the numbers. But it's our nimble ecosystem and our ability to reach out to 1 degree of separation within the region. We can connect. We're very well connected, especially in digital health. It's a small community, and we're really only 1 degree of separation to be able to talk to anyone in the province. And we're really well aligned under a common vision. So our people and our activity is coordinated under that common vision, which is an embrace of innovation. And we have a strong infrastructure. I didn't mention it on the last slide, but from an infrastructure network, we have high-speed broadband throughout the province, so that fiber and broadband, so that we have high-speed connectivity to all corners of the province, even our rural parts of the province, which allows us to deliver digital health over that network. We're known as a low operating cost region. So on the first slide, you may have seen that we talk about being a living lab. Apologize, my slides are going forward on me. We talk about being a living lab within the country. So New Brunswick, with our small and nimble ecosystem and our low cost advantage, people often look here for us to be a low operating cost jurisdiction, and it allows us to set up and save money on rent, save money on hiring employees, and deliver at much less cost than happens in other regions like the big cities that we're adjacent to. As Jesse mentioned, we're the economic development agency in the province, but we really have several sectors that we focus on specifically. I work with digital health, but we also have strategic focus areas in energy, for example, and cyber. We have strong plays in several industry sectors, but these are really the three emerging sectors that New Brunswick works toward. And today we're going to dive in a little bit on digital health ecosystem and activity. So our ecosystem is really made up of several entities, and those entities can be broken up or be considered as broken up by stakeholders, which are public sector entities, companies in the province that are contributing to our digital health agenda. And then we have network partners outside of the province that play a key role in both supplying our province with innovation or being a distribution channel for the work that happens here under our Innovate Here, Export Everywhere type scenario. And we also have several candidate companies that our agency, from an economic development perspective, works with to see if we can set up here in the province. And we have typical resources and influencers that we look to for doing work in the project or in the province. So overall, we have about 250 entities that we deal with on a regular basis. And we have 6 projects that overlay those entities, and projects may bring in one or more stakeholders, one or more companies under a collaborative type of environment. So this is just another rendering of the same picture, and our projects overlay those entities. And I won't go into every project in detail, but I just want to highlight 3 that talks a little bit about the activity in our region, because there's sort of 3 focus areas for us at the moment, which is capturing most of our attention. The first 2 projects are pan-Canadian projects, and we're well aligned with Canada. But the 3 that are bolded there in navy allow us to show our focus areas. So eVisit NB is part of a Healthy at Home initiative. And ever since the pandemic, virtual care has received a shot in the arm, pardon the healthcare pun. But it's really, virtual care is something that we've talked about for a long time that has many benefits. And really in a matter of 3 weeks, because of COVID, which New Brunswick fared very well because of quick action on a lockdown to make sure that we flattened the curve, we were able to transition to a virtual care delivery model. Our clinicians were online, our people that were locked down in their homes started to take their visits, and we moved from a 10% virtual care rate to a 90% virtual care rate in the province for delivery of those projects at home. And we're looking to retain that to allow for ongoing benefits of virtual care, and not just for home meetings, but for home monitoring and basically at-home care. So that's our virtual care side of it. And part of the reason that it aligns well with our other agendas, we have an aging community as well. We're the oldest province in Canada, which gives us a unique environment for aging innovation. And we have projects underway in the province, applied research projects in partnership with the Canadian Public Health Agency of Canada, actually, that looks at New Brunswick as an innovation place for aging-related solutions. So several projects underway to develop disruptors or innovative solutions that allow us to look at how we service our aging community. And if we solve these problems here in New Brunswick, the rest of Canada and several other jurisdictions around the world similarly have a wave of an aging population coming through in the next 10 or 15 years. New Brunswick just happens to be hitting that problem first. So it's a great environment for aging related solutions. And finally, another I just want to highlight is an asset that we have in the province. It's through one of our universities, and it's called the Institute for Research, Data and Training. So NBIRDT there at the bottom. And it essentially is a data asset around every New Brunswicker over time, any interaction that we've had with public sector and sometimes beyond in projects that sign up. Data flows back into a data lake that then becomes available for future research projects. So our opportunity, your opportunity to have access to a population of 750,000 of a complete record beyond just healthcare, any kind of community and environmental statistics is captured, anonymized, and available to companies for research. So it's quite often something that attracts companies here to New Brunswick. So those are just a few things some of the companies are doing. We really have a vibrant community in digital health, and we're quite happy to bring in newcomers and have innovation from wherever in the world come to New Brunswick and service both New Brunswick and our Canadian marketplace. So with that, I will pass it off to three of the companies that are innovating, and you'll hear how they found an opportunity to innovate here in New Brunswick. They're exporting all over the world, and Routinify, Acreon, Cognitive Spark, all strong New Brunswick companies that we're quite proud to showcase today. Thank you, Jesse.
Hey Dale, thank you very much for the presentation. That's definitely a great way to start. Just a few things I'd love to add on to that. One really unique feature that we have kind of with our team and with our organization is we have a team very much dedicated to helping international companies navigate just the physical landscape to actually get in the country, whether that's via an immigration stream or a startup visa stream. We have a client engagement team that's really dedicated to helping companies navigate the best path for them and to really fast track their entrance into the country. And then to complement that further, we do have, similar to many other jurisdictions, but we do have startup visa programs as well throughout our major cities. So there's always kind of a soft landing place and kind of a collaborative innovative area that you're able to come to if you are looking to expand, really regardless of your size. So there very much can be room for all. So that's definitely just one point I wanted to make. And if anyone's been on the sessions in the previous days, they would have heard me say this, but we also very much have a commitment to the Indian markets. And what I mean by that is we will have a physical location there starting next year. We will likely have an office either within the High Commission or something of those sorts and and a shared model resource. In the meantime, however, until we can actually get boots on the ground, which of course has been delayed due to the global situation, you can definitely get in contact with us and interact with someone on our behalf if you look to the ICBC, which is the Indo-Canadian Business Chamber. As well as through our friends at the International Trade Council as well. And I mentioned that specifically as I do notice we have quite a few attendees from India. So I just wanted to put that point specifically out there. But this points as a great segue into our first and next speaker. He's joining us from even further away than we are at the moment. So he's gotten up quite early to deliver this. And Pat, couldn't thank you anymore for that. Please feel free to take control of the screen here with your presentation if you have one. And everyone, our next speaker will be Pat Kelly. He works with a company called Routinify, and I dare not steal any of his thunder, and I will officially hand the mic on to him once we get the tech sorted out anyway.
Yeah, my apologies there. So good morning all. My name is Pat Kelly. I'm with Routinify. We are dual headquartered in St. John, New Brunswick, as well as my current residence, which is in Boulder, Colorado. We are in the digital health space. And what I'd like to do is maybe do just a couple definitions of what we view as our role there. I think the pandemic has brought to everyone's attention the preeminence of traditional telemedicine. We are in an area that we refer to as telecare, and I'll give you some definitions on that. So telemedicine, as most people here fully understand, is primarily a push-down form of it's coming from your skilled practitioner. It's very important. It is episodic. It's when there is a condition that you're then involved with the telemedicine provider. And whether that's an annual or quarterly or other, it is episodic, and it's primarily triggered by a specific condition. Telehealth is an attempt to expand that to include other providers of care services. But again, it's primarily episodic. And more importantly, it's kind of a push down model. It's from the care providers to the patient. In our vernacular, telecare is meant to be 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We're primarily initially focused on the aging adult market space, but I'll share with you how we're working with other individuals with similar challenges. So not only are we enabling the traditional professional providers of care, but we're including all of the individuals who are involved in what we would refer to as the care circle. So this can be both formal and informal providers of care. It can be family members. It can be community members. It can be friends of that individual who are in a position to help assist them. And it's not just the medical, it's also helping them with the non-medical. That is the way that they're actually living their day. And as we all understand, how you live has a huge bearing on how well you live. And hence our moniker, Routinify. We're here as a digital therapeutic to help you live the best day that you possibly can. Just doing a belated visual check. I'm assuming that the display is visible by all here.
Looking great, Pat. Thank you.
Great. So from a mechanical standpoint, although we're a software company, there is some hardware involved because there's a human being on the other end of this. And first thing we want to do is we want to attempt to digitize as much as possible in a non-invasive way that individual. And we go about that through the traditional ways of automatically obtaining data, whether that's traditional vital data or more and more wrist source data. We have a device we call the Routinable. We also support Garmin, Fitbit, and others. And we need to gather data about the environment that you currently are residing in. Now, this could be your private residence at home. It could be a residence in a managed facility. So there may be requirements for us to monitor certain cabinet and door openings, to monitor and control power and other sources. But the most important solution is the application that runs on our personal care appliance. Our personal care appliance is our application operating on a tablet device, but that tablet is under our direct control. It runs our application and lots of other applications that are accretive to the health and well-being of that individual. The way that we put all of these components into play is kind of business 101. And by that, I mean, let's have a plan. For us, one of our core plans are what we call habits for aging well. We're wanting to really understand how you're doing from the moment you wake up. How well did you sleep last night? What are the specific activities we should start you with today, which may not just be things like take your vitals and make sure you remember your meds, but can I help you get mentally actuated at the beginning of the day? Then there's activities throughout the day that we might be able to assist with. So as you can well imagine, this is really behavior modification. By the detailed application of different nudges and assistances, we're helping to guide that individual's daily behavior, helping to habituate them to certain patterns. But it's not just the aging adult that we're targeting, it's all those around them, because a lot of times it's their routines that are unfortunately having an adverse impact on the routine of the aging adult. We also look at things like mental engagement. We want to help you be mentally actuated, engaged. Have you talked to anybody today to make sure that you're fully socially engaged, not just socially engaged to reach out for specific care requirements and necessities, but just social engagement? And of course, we're going to monitor your safety and security. So those are the goals. There's a plan in place. Our definition of a care plan is a little bit more macro. Again, we're trying to have a plan of care that extends all day, every day. And then the data from the devices that I had aforementioned brought you, that data helps me understand how well am I achieving my goals, how well am I engaging my patient, how well am I changing the behavior patterns of my patient. And it also allows me to look at the plan itself, which we in healthcare typically don't do. We're so focused on, is the plan getting carried out, that we don't take the time to say, hey, is that really the right plan? So with the right data and the right goals and the real-time assessment and observation and manipulation of both of those, we can tune both, make sure that the goals are the right goals, that we're achieving those goals, and that the plan is the right plan to achieve those goals, and it's the right plan for that individual. As I indicated before, we are very focused on initially on the aging adult marketplace. We are Routinify, not Ageify. As a startup, we're hyper-focused on our initial market launch, but we have many other adults who have similar challenges. The only check in the box they do not have is aging. So we are also applying our technology to people recovering from traumatic brain injuries. We also have our first clients with ALS and Parkinson. So I guess we could all benefit from a digital therapeutic. We can all benefit from better routines, and that's our role in the healthcare sector. Just kind of a view of the plan. The plan takes the form of a calendar because it is time-based, but the point being that we're really trying to understand the very specific things that we can help you with throughout your day. And they can be as simple as helping you start your day with a good morning routine, turning on your favorite news channels, allowing you to immediately communicate with friends and family and in your environment. And that extends out to helping you with our digital therapeutics and your specific medical therapeutics, if you will, and also just giving you notes of encouragement, interacting with you throughout the day. We have just started some very interesting research there in the province, which is the application of artificial intelligence to understand some of the other components in an individual's household. So there's certainly electronically controlled and connected dispenser devices, and those have their role. But we like to keep things nice and simple. So we use our artificial intelligence to recognize the pill pack or the dispensing element that you have and just verify that you're on track with the right med at the right time. Lots of data. There's the data you'd expect around the vitals and that, but more importantly, we have behavior data. And so throughout the day, we're guiding and observing your interaction with our application. Have you looked at family photos? Did you check in on the weather? Have you listened to any news or your favorite music? Not that we're trying to pry into your life, but these are all explicit check-ins. And they're also indicators of how well we are doing and how we can do better to help manage your day throughout time. Vital data, of course. And we also are monitoring social interactions. So social interaction can be televisits, having through our platform, which essentially replaces the telephone in the house. Have you talked to anybody? Has anybody reached out to you? Have you reached out to anybody? Have you engaged in any of our reminiscent therapy by looking through family photos and listening to your stories about those photos and those sessions, and other activities? So really trying to have a good understanding of how you're doing throughout your day. So clearly lots and lots that one can share with you in terms of notifying the right people through SMS and other tools and techniques. But I think I'll just take a deep breath and allow members of the audience to ask any questions. Although, Jesse, let me know if I'm out of sequence in terms of how the Q&A works here this morning.
No, it's all good. We had one question specific just for a few other things aside from Routinify. Let's see here. One question was, what kind of digital health activity does your company specifically see in Canada? I'm not sure if you had a chance to elaborate on that or not just yet, but.
Yeah, so we, obviously we're kind of involved here from a multi-pronged standpoint. We are a software company, although there is clearly a lot of hardware involved here. So we get involved in Canadian digital health through partnerships from one of our partners we're going to hear from soon, which is eVisit NB, who provides telemedicine capabilities and is also helping span the gap. Even though the province is quite small, I think a stunning 20 to 30% of the individuals do not have a primary care physician. So telemedicine can help span that gap. And in the aging adult space, which we primarily participate in the province, eVisit New Brunswick is the online digital care of individuals. We also enable in-home care providers, and we also help monitor, manage, and control the care that's being delivered in a managed facility within the province. We also are exporting an interesting thing that, and the health service should cover their ears in Canada. We are exporting Canadian care, and by that I mean we have a whole staff of nurses who are providing telecare services, not telemedicine, because you've got an interesting short-term licensure problem. Canadian physicians currently can't practice medicine in the US, but they are providing telecare services to initially Colorado residents, and we will be providing New Brunswick-based telecare services pan-US and potentially into other countries. So that's our experience with telecare in Canada, both providing it and exporting it.
Excellent. Thank you kindly, Pat. I don't see any other questions directly for Routinify. So if there's anything, if that's the conclusion of your slides, we can.
Absolutely. Yep. No, I'll cede my time to the rest of the individuals on the panel here this morning. Thank you.
Thank you kindly, Pat, for that. It's really great to hear some of the work you're doing, and obviously incredibly cross-border as well between Canada and the United States. So thank you kindly. And for everyone who might be a little curious, Pat's actually joining us from Colorado today. So it's even earlier for him, and we're very grateful that he's taken the time to join us today. So our next speaker that we're going to have join is Robert Daigle. He works for a company located in New Brunswick as well as Nova Scotia, and he's based in Halifax specifically. The company's name is Acreon. Without going too much in and taking too much from his speaking, Bob, I'd love to give you the floor if you're ready to go.
I am. I'm just pulling up my screen.
Sounds great.
Share, and do you guys do you see that?
Not just yet.
Okay.
There we go.
Perfect. So first off, I just wanted to say thanks to everybody for showing up, and I wanted to say thanks to Dale and Jesse specifically for inviting me and giving us the opportunity to kind of talk to you folks today. Just a little bit of background about us as an organization. So Acreon was founded in Fredericton in 2001. So we've been very, very fortunate as an organization to be a member of the New Brunswick ecosystem for quite a while. And what I will say is that we've been able to grow from 0 to 150 employees, with almost 100 still dedicated in New Brunswick. And Opportunities New Brunswick has been a partner in our growth for sure. They've helped us. Financially. They've also helped us by making sure that we're up to speed and aware of the ecosystem, and inviting us to sessions like these that allow us to be out in front of some of the some customers, and also some of the trends, and help us shape the market. So if you are taking a look at New Brunswick, we've found that the support systems here have been very, very good for us, and it's allowed us to grow out of New Brunswick, into other areas of North America, Boston, Arizona, Ontario specifically, also across the rest of the provinces that border on New Brunswick. What I'd like to do now is just go into a little bit of an overview of our organization and the interest that we would have in working with you folks. So we grew up as a services and company, much like many companies in the early 2000s, really working on building applications, specific applications, and integration into the healthcare ecosystem. So of our 150 folks, all of them have some kind of healthcare and social sciences background, where we've worked in large healthcare environments, in long-term care facilities. We work with one of the largest long-term care facilities in terms of helping them build and integrate their other people's products into their EHR systems. We have a specialty in and around care integration, interoperability, and the use of cloud technologies. As I was mentioning, our growth as an application, our growth really came from our application management services. So we have an end-to-end ability to build applications for third-party companies that have challenges or are trying to solve problems within the healthcare and social services environment. So we've got a lot of experience, end-to-end with working with customers and helping them realize kind of their vision in terms of what they would like to accomplish from a product perspective, anywhere from the strategy and planning right through to operations management. We're very much a product agnostic company in terms of the kinds of technologies that companies prefer to use. Obviously, a lot more of the products we're using are cloud-based products, open source products these days, but because of the length and depth of our experience, we also have a number of folks that have familiarity with more traditional software products, anything from .NET to Java, through to Spring now, Flutter, JSON, Mirth, MuleSoft. So really, we span the gambit. And one of the things that we've done over the last number of years, and this is really where OMB and other partnerships have helped us shape the future of our organization, is, as many of you are probably aware and seeing in your own organizations, there's a shift to cloud, and there's a shift to more productized services and service offerings. And so a number of years ago, we started to make that shift because we were seeing a shift in the marketplace, and we started to develop our own products that we could leverage into our existing healthcare ecosystem, and we started to leverage not just our relationships and knowledge, but also leveraging our understanding of interoperability and cloud solutions, and we launched a product called our Acreon Health Cloud. So our Acreon Health Cloud is a SaaS-based, fully managed integration platform that enables healthcare providers, both in the in the traditional healthcare environment as well as in the long-term care facilities, to quickly integrate new products into their environment. So if you take a look at one of the challenges that many small startups have and many large organizations have, it's how do they take the products that they currently have and make sure that they're acting in a way that allows the end user to have as few integration or as few steps as possible to make sure that they're getting the data and the information that they need. And we've been a part of solving this problem in terms of developing a developing a fully managed solution that manages the connections of multiple healthcare products and ties them into essentially the larger enterprise-wide systems within some of the large care areas. So if you take a look at the markets that are occurring today and the changes in the market, one of the challenges that large healthcare providers have and small software point solutions have is how do they get into the ecosystem and how do they become relevant within the ecosystem. So developing an application that stands outside the existing ecosystem can be challenging from a user standpoint within a large enterprise. Since we've launched this product, we've been successful in installing it throughout in a number of areas in the U.S. As well as in Western Canada. And we are right now at the point where we're starting to take a look overseas and trying to understand if there are opportunities for us to move over there. So we as an AWS, we built all of our technology on AWS. And one of the things that we're most interested in doing is seeing how we might be able to take our AHC system and work with interested parties to partner with them to help them and their customers solve some of their integration challenges. And we can go, we can install this product, frankly, end to end, and work with other service providers to help with that. And that's really what I wanted to talk about today. Does anybody have any questions?
Thank you kindly for sharing that with us today, Bob. That's obviously great to see quite the reach that you'd have, across the country and furthermore. I'll just peruse the chat here to see if there's any specific questions on your bit.
Bob, just I see there's a question there for Pat from Routinify, but just before we go to that, just a question about data that's captured through wearables or through home monitoring devices and your integration engine. Are you able to consume that type of data as well? Is that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Excellent. And Pat, I see there's a question for you there on the chat. A great question from VJ. Oh, sorry, from Verada. With the data getting generated on a daily basis, have you created any prediction models in AI that you could discuss?
Yes, but let me talk about my perspective on AI or the creation. So lots of companies like to fancy that they have one or two, fabulous data scientists on board, which they may, and that they have unique and proprietary solutions here. This is a complicated, nuanced problem. So we share our data with the people with the research group. So our partnership with University of New Brunswick, St. John, and Dal, and Dr. Keith Brunt, who's a transitional scientist. We also are sharing that here stateside. So we see over time, there will be lots of sources of very smart, savvy, insightful AI applications. And we see ourselves as the digital syringe. We acquire the data, and then we apply the data to the therapeutics there. And that's going to be those AI routines in that. Some will be developed by us, some will be developed by our partners, and some of them will come from the research community. So yes, but we see ourselves as a source and a funnel.
Very good.
Awesome. Well, unless Dale, if you have any other questions off the top of your mind for the two previous speakers at the moment.
Yeah, I'm good for now.
Good for now. Awesome. Very best. Well, thank you kindly, Bob, for sharing that with us today. I'd like to introduce our next speaker, Duncan McSporran, coming at us live from Fredericton, New Brunswick as well. Duncan works with a very unique company called Cognitive Spark. I don't want to take too much from his presentation, but they basically have a very unique solution for training and implementation of specific services through the utilization of AR and kind of VR technologies. But without further ado, I don't want to steal any of his thunder. So Duncan, I'll hand it to you.
Great, thanks very much, Jesse, and good morning to everybody from Fredericton. As I'm sure you've had and hopefully had a very warm welcome. I'm really here to talk about what we do and what Cognitive Spark does, but also obviously to provide some insights for those of you who are thinking about potentially moving or setting up an operation here in New Brunswick, and to really sort of discuss and allow you to ask some of those questions. So please don't get fixated by what I'm talking about in terms of our products and our capabilities. I really want to talk to you about those, and I want to engage with you about those, but I also want to allow you to ask those questions about why you should be here, and why this is such a good place for you to invest your time and effort. I'm going to talk through this slide deck in a moment, and so on. But just obviously to give you a little bit of background on myself, I'm obviously not from New Brunswick, and I am a new Canadian, and I've set up several successful businesses here in the province since I arrived, following a career in the British Armed Forces. So without much further ado, I am going to open up this slide deck. And we'll start the slideshow from here, and just talk you through who we are and what we do. In reality, Cognitive Spark is a cybersecurity company, and we set ourselves up as a cybersecurity company to create solutions in the emerging area of augmented and mixed reality. So not virtual reality, so not occluded from your real work environment, but actually being able to use digitally presented information in a context which is pertinent to the workplace and to the user who is on a job site or in a particular laboratory, or doing something which requires assistance from somebody who probably is not in that same place, and also to allow them to get support from contextual digital data which is relevant to the task that the individual is going through at the time. Many of you will have seen this type of technology. Many of you might think that it's science fiction. The reality is it's here, it's now, and it's being used by industrial companies. And as a group, Cognitive Spark set itself out to really create very meaningful and differentiated solutions to go into this market, and that's what we've done. And we'll go through some of those key sort of points as we go through, and I give you that introduction. For those of you who are not necessarily really sort of aligned with what AR or MR is,
Duncan,
these are some of the real
if I might just interrupt, sorry. Could you end your slides and then just reshare? I think everyone's just seeing a black screen right now.
Yeah. Boom, boom, stop share.
It wouldn't be a morning. Wouldn't be a morning session if we didn't have technology fail on us at least once. There we go. Perfect. Thank you. Sorry for interrupting.
No, that's not a problem. Thank you for letting me know that wasn't sharing. So it's getting ahead of itself. You have got a black screen now. I'll start from there. And it doesn't like this at all for some reason this morning. However, we will get there eventually.
Is it the same one that we would have used on day one? Because I could also share it on my end if that might be any easier.
No, we're good. Just let me know that you can see that.
Looks great. Yep, looks great.
Okay, Jesse. All right,
Thank you.
Just interrupt if there's any more challenges on that front. So yeah, that slide's important, and I really wanted to go back to that first slide because this shows our technology in use, and it shows it in use by one of the most demanding customers that we have, which is the Royal Canadian Navy, and supporting a technician who has been on site is being assisted by somebody remotely to complete a task that they're trained to do but not necessarily familiar with. So very typical of the type of task that we get involved with. So why does mixed reality or augmented reality work in the context of the digital worker or Industry 4.0 or factory of the future? It really revolves around these 4 key points. And hopefully, as I talk through, you'll keep coming back to these and you'll keep refreshing your thoughts on what what this means and why this is significant. And that ability to do these types of tasks that we're talking about, assisting somebody who's trained but not necessarily experienced, or somebody who's the person who's on site and is the one who's under pressure to complete the task, then you'll understand, the real value of it and the real importance in many senses to the way that we do business in a global context. Leveraging experts, it speaks for itself. What you want is the person who knows that system or knows that process best to be the person who's helping your team to get their job done. The ability to do the training that you need to do at the point of greatest need, which is actually not in the classroom 2 years before you do something. The point of greatest need is that ability to transfer the knowledge and for somebody to learn at the point at which they're going to do the task, because you want them to get that task right from the word go. The ability to use the technology to reduce downtime, whether that's a small piece of very high-end equipment or whether it's a large industrial engineering equipment, and the ability to get the team that's there on site to get that system back up and running. That can be for 2 reasons. It can be for the productivity within a facility to make sure that you're not losing overhead production costs. But it also may just be for operational availability. You may need that piece of equipment in a life-saving situation to be available now, not in 6 hours' time when somebody has got to the site and fixed it, but now. And that speaks really volumes to the healthcare industry in particular, and to a number of other sectors within which we work. Importantly, also to reduce errors. Again, in an engineering context, errors are costly because if something is repaired incorrectly or a piece is replaced incorrectly, then the costs to the parent company can be enormous. Just by somebody thinking that they're doing the right thing, but not actually doing the right thing, doing exactly the opposite. And we have numerous of our customers that have adopted our technology because of exactly that situation. Somebody has tried to do the right thing, but inadvertently has caused hundreds of thousands of dollars in some cases of damage to equipment and to production lines by forcing an issue, thinking that they knew what they did was right, but it was absolutely and catastrophically wrong. And being able to guide somebody through something and to give the individual the benefit of reassurance that somebody is looking over their shoulder and is saying, right, that is the next right thing to do. Or alternatively, is sharing with them the benefits of their knowledge and experience of their lifetime working in that field and saying, actually, the thing that you really need to do next is this. Don't do anything until that is finished. That personal human in the loop aspect is so important in what we do. And whilst we present an incredibly highly technical solution to people, the reality is this is about making your teams more effective at what they do when they need to do it. And really, this decision action cycle that we talk about is a very human characteristic. And one of the things that pull as one of the threads about New Brunswick out is that we've been able to tap into a really significant pool of expert knowledge here, amongst many others, with the University of New Brunswick and also with the New Brunswick Community College, to help us to develop the thought process on this. And the human computer interface, the laboratory, for instance, at the University of New Brunswick, has already provided us with 2 master's students on our pay that are now on our payroll, and those master's students have come through the master's program working in a very closely aligned way with projects that we've been doing as applied research with that laboratory. And the same goes for New Brunswick Community College. We recruit out of NBCC, and the students are arriving to us with the type of knowledge that we want, because in that particular case, they're adjusting their courses to align with what we need, because this is the future and this is the way that a lot of technologies are going to move. So why not use best practice, which is being generated here in Fredericton by Cognitive Spark? And so we're getting a really very skilled and very highly qualified workforce, which is being created for us through that, to talk about these kind of issues and to be able to articulate that in a particularly clear way, but also to drive the development of our future roadmap, our technology, the way that we're going to stay ahead of the curve. And that, for me, is one of the most important reasons for us, not only setting the company up here in New Brunswick, but also maintaining our base of operations right here. It's that connectivity with that really critical thought development and an intellectual property dynamo, if you will, that allows us to continue to do what we've done, which is create a world-leading solution in our field. It's very niche, it's very small, but it's a world-leading solution, and we're continuing to build on that because of the skill sets that we're able to draw on here in the province. And that extends into other areas as well, particularly in cybersecurity. As I mentioned at the beginning, we set ourselves up as a cybersecurity company, so we lean very heavily on the Canadian Institute for Cybersecurity's knowledge base to move forwards, and actually to justify our engagement with some of our more demanding security clients. The 4 bullet points there really speak to all of the human factors that I've just mentioned, and that clarity through common visualization. It's the way the brain works. The brain works best in terms of learning through visualization of tasks. And really, in many respects, as we make decisions and we act on a situation to rectify a problem, the best way for the brain to do that is to have the information that it needs presented to it in a visualized way. We do that in full 3 dimensions. Our holograms, using the HoloLens, occupy space as if they were real objects. So it's the most direct way to get that comprehension, and also, importantly, to reduce the burden on the individual and reduce that cognitive fatigue, which is incredibly important when people are on site and they're under pressure to get something done quickly. But also, it really brings into the whole process the ability to bring the team into that decision-making process, so that the person on the front line, who quite often is the most junior or is one of the field technicians who is outside of the executive loop, that they know that they're doing the right thing, that they're being supported by the chief of engineering or the process manager or something along those lines. And if we take that into the healthcare area, that really works incredibly effectively. And our most effective demonstration of use in the healthcare industry at the moment, one actually was we were down selected as the second option for the UK's ventilator challenge, to allow people to do the assembly, installation and maintenance of the ventilators for COVID-19. We weren't selected as the final choice. That was Microsoft, who are we're a gold partner with. But just in terms of the fact that a small Canadian company was able to get that far into the selection process as one of only 2 that went to the final selection is really indicative of how impactful this can be within healthcare. And also the fact that we're being used currently for trials with special forces groups to do surgery over long distance from an expert based in Canada to support a surgical team, a medical team remotely located anywhere in the world, over bandwidths as low as 128 kilobytes. And I'll come back to that in a short while. On the other side, where we also have a massive potential, and we're being used within the space industry already, is within clean spaces, where there's a requirement to have experts who are with a team that's inside a clean space, but you don't want to take all of those individuals into that clean space. This really is started to generate a massive amount of interest within those areas. And we're talking to a number of pharmaceutical companies about that, but we're already employed within the space industry for exactly that purpose. What sets us apart? These are really sort of key capabilities for us. The low bandwidth. We own every line of code in our system, which is something that is unique within the market. That's allowed us to really optimize how these systems operate. And as a result of that, we can really sort of kill the low bandwidth. Any of you that have integrated systems into a facility or into a particular workflow will understand the burden of high bandwidth solutions. Your sort of density of users really taps out very quickly. If you've got 5 people who are using 10 megabits of connectivity, then you're using all the bandwidth that's generally available within an industrial context, just for one task. If you're using 5 headsets, for instance, we, as I've said, can operate down at 128 kilobytes. We prefer 256, and we can operate off a 3G mobile hotspot. We can do that effectively on a 3G mobile hotspot. So imagine, what we can do with full 5G connectivity as well. That's it's really mind blowing in terms of that. Our ease of use. Users, generally speaking, are able to adopt to the technology incredibly quickly. We sent a headset with software on it to a worker in the electrical power industry about 6 to 8 weeks ago. He was up and running on task within 40 minutes, having never seen a Microsoft HoloLens before in his life. And never interacted with our software before that point. Again, it comes back to that low burden that we place on people with our software. It's actually about making this easy to use and really being almost transparent to the user, other than the fact that they're getting fantastic direct support on the task that they're doing. And anybody who is familiar with using a mobile phone, we started to draw the line at a flip phone. If you're still using a flip phone, you're probably going to have challenges. But anybody who's using a mobile smartphone really won't have any difficulty adjusting to this. But importantly, I come back to that security piece every time. We have the highest security levels for this type of software, and it comes back to that one key piece. We own every line of code. This IP is, in terms of the software, is ours, and is really something that we've put an awful lot of effort into, and we've developed right here in Fredericton from the word go. And that allows us to meet your needs from a security perspective, whether that's in terms of protecting your own intellectual property or meeting the security requirements for your own systems. And to that end, we're the only team globally that can create a full mixed reality solution from top to bottom on premise. We were awarded a Microsoft Partner of the Year for 2018 because of the ability for us to do that. We were the first to be able to do it, and we remain the only company that can actually create that environment. And the on-prem environment, despite the move to cloud solutions, there are a lot of situations where that is still required, either by existing security requirements or alternatively by the needs of a third party with which you might work. But at the same time, because we can do that extreme, we can do everything else, right through to being the first company to be able to do mixed reality calls from a browser. So you don't even need, there's no dependency, you don't need Teams, you don't need Office 365, you just need a browser on the desktop of the expert who's providing support to the remote worker. That's in beta at the moment, but that'll be rolled out as a full as part of our full product line in the new year. That's our value as a partner, and actually a lot of this slide speaks to New Brunswick and why New Brunswick's really key. We've been built up really and supported by teams like Dale's at Digital Health here in New Brunswick, but also we've been supported largely by the ecosystem that exists here, and that has given us an incredibly strong framework to build out to a small company that's based here in Fredericton, New Brunswick, that provides solutions to partners globally. And I think that really is important when people look at us here. There's a tendency to look to the bright lights of Toronto, Montreal, or Vancouver. But the reality is, one, our cost of living is really low here, which actually has a number of benefits and allows us to, one, develop and grow our own talent right here without any concerns. People come here and they want to stay here when they live here, or if they've grown up here, they tend to want to have options to be employed here as well. And that really creates a great dynamic for us, and allows us to sort of build a workforce that is actually very loyal. We don't have the churn rates of the companies that would exist in other regions within Canada. Since we set the company up, we now have 25 people working for us, and we've had a turnover of 4 people in 4 years. So that just speaks to that ability to really sort of focus the team and get them moving. But also the attention that we're able to, there's a low noise level here. So if you're in a particular field and you decide that you're going to set up here, then generally speaking, you're one call away from people who are the decision makers. And whether that's the people that would support the development of IP, such as the great partners that we work with, the National Research Council, IRAP group, or whether it's the university at the University of New Brunswick and people such as Hart Devitt, who's heading up the new innovation unit there, and is tied into the Office of Research Services, or if it's to the faculty members such as Bill McIver at New Brunswick Community College. We're just such a collaborative, really closely networked group that it brings massive benefits that add into all of these values that we present to our global customers, and speaks volumes to really why we've chosen not only to build the company here and to grow it here, but really to fix it in a way which is going to be that is very much our long-term vision, is to continue growing the company right here in New Brunswick. And again, just to speak to the sort of wider nature and the ease of access. I was on one of the talks the other day, and I joked about it. We get customers in Toronto where if they're moving from one site to the other in Toronto, it takes them longer to get from one site to the other than it does for me to fly and get to their head office in Toronto. So that's just one of those key things to consider sometimes. But speaking about that reach and so on, these trusted partners with all of these groups from right here in Fredericton, and a number more that we're not at liberty to put on a public screen. But hopefully that gives you a sense for one, who we are, what the really great advantages of our software are, and how that might align to some of your needs, which we'd love to talk to you about. But also why New Brunswick is such a great place to set up and grow a high-tech company or a pharma company or a healthcare company, and supported by, like I said, by great teams like the digital health team, led by Dale, and Opportunities New Brunswick right here in downtown Fredericton and St. John and Moncton as well. So that's me. That's our 2 team members that focus on the particular areas that I work in. My aerospace and defence team, if you will, is myself and Ian. And if anybody's got any questions, and I also cover healthcare and pharma as well. But they're sort of emerging markets for us. So if anybody's got any questions, just let me know.
Thank you kindly for the presentation, Duncan. It's great. It's always awesome to hear from you guys. I think I like this presentation more and more. We actually do have one good question from the audience here. Could you give some insight as to, on the client end, what it takes to kind of implement your solution, and maybe what the team size required looks like? Is it a variable, a fixed, a one-man operation, or does it require some additional support?
No, we've really learned from COVID-19 that we've basically done what we say we do on the tin. We do remote support, so we've applied all of those principles. And that example that I gave of the worker in the electrical power industry was a really classic example. His project manager for delivery of that capability was in Florida. He was in Massachusetts, and they just asked us to ship the system, and then what we did was we used Teams calls to run through his basic learning package, and then, like I said, 40 minutes later he was actually on task with the headset, using some of the content that we created specifically for him. In terms of dependencies, we've tried to remove those, but we'll work with whatever's required. We work very well with Teams, for instance, as you'd imagine, being a Microsoft partner. The key thing is the creation of content, but that's really the second step in using the capability. The first step is actually just getting a support call going like we're doing now. That has the benefits of the fact that it's hands-free. It's heads up and it's hands-free because the system is on the individual's heads or on their head. So it has a lot more benefit than a lot of the other solutions that you'll see where somebody's holding something up like this. Well, when you're doing this, you can't actually do the task because you're holding this with both hands. So that first step, there's almost no dependency. That can be done straight away. And actually, with the second step, which is the inclusion of digital capability, we in all of our contracts do an initial piece with the team, and we introduce either their engineering team or their graphics team to the process to develop the digital capability themselves. So we don't create that latent dependency on us for your content creation. We're not content creators. That's not our bag. We're a software communications company that happens to have created this, and cybersecurity company that's created this solution, which works incredibly well. So that's the sort of the back end piece is really sort of slimline again. And some of the work that we're doing at the moment, which I can't talk about on here, but some of the work that we're doing at the moment is mind blowing in terms of how simple this is to implement.
Excellent. Well, thank you kindly for that reply. It's great to hear. And, I'm seeing a few people just in the chat that are interested in getting in touch with you. So for those that saw Duncan's email when it was up, feel free to reach out to him. We're also, you can contact him through us if you reach out to myself or Dale, as well as we can all be found on LinkedIn also. I'll encourage that as a method to communicate as well, and definitely a great way to stay in touch and continue the conversation. So with that being said too, if there was anything that was mentioned today or brought up today that you would like to connect on further, please do connect with us on that bit and that subject. We'd certainly love to have the conversation with you. I see that there was a couple inquiries regarding the startup visa specifically. I've actually got some dedicated info I can send your way. I'd love for everyone to connect with myself on LinkedIn if that's feasible, and I'll actually link my own profile in the chat here. Just bear with me one second, but really grateful to have everyone who's joined us today. Cannot thank you enough. Again, it just really shines a light on some of the activity that's happening here, which is really not to be overlooked in any way, shape, or form. Often when people aren't based in North America, or if they don't have a presence here, they might not really think of New Brunswick, Canada, per se, in comparison to the larger jurisdictions such as Toronto or Montreal or Vancouver. And as you've been able to tell from some of the speakers today, certainly the infrastructure, the innovation, the people, and then just the agility to operate as a company, and even us as government, is truly unparalleled and really speaks to our competitive advantage. So that's why we say we're very much open for business. We are committed to the Indian markets as well. So it really creates a great fit for us to exchange and hopefully keep those lines up and going in the future. So without further ado, I think that's all I have for the rest of the day. I will say goodbye and a final thank you to everyone. Dale, I'll give you the opportunity to close out as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jesse. Thank you to our panelists. That's wonderful. Just seeing some of the questions that come in through the chat, and also seeing the presentations today. Clearly, there's an opportunity for us to link further, especially in India. We talked about our focus there and our presence there, and perhaps initially through the Indo-Canadian Business Council. Duncan and Pat, you both have hardware devices, and there's a number of people that want to have demonstrations done in India. Does it make sense, Duncan, for us to work through the Indo-Canadian Business Council, get a device on site in India if you don't have one already, and have a bit of a showcase environment there? That's something I think we could easily so too.
Yeah, no, that would very much be the case, and we can do that. I think effectively the best thing about that would be able to do in the same time zone, and we can set up demonstrations there in a very straightforward way once there's a headset in the office.
Yep. And Pat, same. I'm guessing there's opportunity to set up in a bit of a showcase environment to have Routinify on display, and people can see, feel, touch it, type of thing.
Absolutely. We actually have a partner based out of Chennai, so we'd be happy to make the connection there.
Okay, perfect. So we'll work through the chats that have come in post session. I have made some follow-up notes, but in the interest of wrapping up today and following up on some of those, I want to say thank you again to everyone, and have a great day.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.